Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Hello and welcome along as you join us for the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship here live and exclusive on Apex Racing TV. The championship returns for round 5, making a short trip from last time out at Sebring to Barber Motorsport Park. A track which was the result of one man's single-minded determination to create a world-class venue to showcase his unprecedented collection of motorcycles. George Barber, the sometime racer, amassed his fortune from property investments and from the family dairy business and decided to plough it into the facility near his home in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, interestingly, Barber he was an accomplished Porsche racer himself back in the 1960s and early 70s, and it couldn't be more fitting for the championship to head to this venue for the latest round. I'm Tim Cox, we have John Robinson and Alex Simpson in the production booth, but right now I'm joined as always by DJ Clark. DJ, I'm really bit of a unique circuit, not one used too much on the iRacing service, so going to be interesting to see how all the drivers get on. But I mean, what can we say? In pro, it's all been so far all about Christensen. 3 wins so far this season. It's definitely the man to beat.
He certainly is, but he's going to have his work cut out for him here around Barber. We were talking a little bit before air that this track and the way that the elevation change comes at you, it's a little bit like Mid-Ohio with just a few more corners thrown in. It is a very, very tricky circuit. Not a lot of room or place to overtake, but it is a track that really rewards bravery and tenacity coming around these corners. So it is going to be a test of driver determination and driver skill to be able to get around here. And especially if Christensen wants to pick up another win, he is really going to have to chuck it in.
Qualifying just underway at the moment. Drivers are around to complete their first flying lap. There's 10 minutes open quali before we head out into 2 25-minute races. Definitely, all hell breaks loose, and it's definitely one for the viewers to watch at home. Now, before we get going proper, mention to our free sponsors for today. First off, we've got Virtual Racing School. If you're looking to improve your on-track performance with 50+ data packs for road and oval racing, setups, track guides, data analysis software, and one-on-one coaching. Then we've got SDK Gaming, where you can add a virtual HUD to iRacing, show timing tabs, enhance relative boxes, mini-maps. You can use it to broadcast your leagues with, like we do for all of our races here at Apex Racing TV. You can use it to stream to Twitch for the most complete overlay on iRacing, but also use it to adjust your team strategy on the fly with one of the most accurate live timing softwares and fuel calculators on iRacing. And then finally, we've got Apex Racing Academy. They have 29 data packs, setups, track guides, integration with one of our other sponsors, Virtual Racing School. They have weekly group coaching sessions and much, much more. So make sure you check all of those guys out. And right now, just looking at the timing sheets, it's strong for RPC Esports, leading the way right now. However, Lacine is currently showing the front row. The AM driver, 2 wins so far to his name this season. And that's an absolutely cracking result from one of the AM drivers to be all the way up onto the front row.
Yeah, it truly is, and that is no random aberration there. That is representative of what we were seeing Lacine put down in practice, really seeming to like this track and really be able to power his way around here. There you can see this is the number 110 as he works his way around there a little bit. This is Scott Mokes as he goes around.
The championship standings up there, you can see Christensen the way there. We've got a Stad Mokes. I'll tell you what, definitely some interesting characters to watch out for as well within that. Head across to AM as well, see how they are getting on. But right now, it's all about RPC Esports occupying 3 of the top 4 places. Obviously, pole for Strom, Christensen and Godesad occupying the 2nd row. Steve still holding on to that 2nd place, front row of the grid. I mean, but don't discredit Wadsworth. We've seen great performances from him so far. Currently 6th on the 3rd row of the grid, 2nd of the AM runners. And I mean, this is where it gets tricky and interesting, doesn't it, DJ? Because you know, it's invariably, especially with a tight track like this, that where you qualify tends to be where you race.
Yeah, for sure. So you definitely want to try to get your way up there a little bit more. You're not going to have a lot of overtaking opportunities. As I said, really your best chance is going to be going down into turn 5, the hairpin at the end of the straight leading off the carousel. But truly to be able to get yourself up here and to be able to be in a position to be able to attack forward, you got to qualify well. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
They have indeed now. Well worth mentioning. Of course, for the 2nd race, the top 8 of the finishers are inverted to form the grid for race 2. The rest of the field obviously starting where they finished in race 1, and that's going to really play into the hands of the likes of Wadsworth and Lacine. Lacine just dropping a couple of places. Thomas Cope makes his appearance there onto the 2nd row of the grid, 3rd position right now with 122.27, which is watching Strom at the moment. Current provisional pole sitter. Gonna have a couple of more chances after this one potentially. Time's starting to run out a little bit though. All our drivers, if they wish to make some progress. Yet set time so far is Mark Silcock. He's at the moment going to be starting from the back of the grid. But well, I mean, he's put in some really strong qualifying performances so far this season, as we just see at Thomas Cope there. And, well, I think it's just not always quite been able to convert those into wins necessarily.
No, he hasn't. He's had a little bit of bad luck. Remember the bumping and banging that we had last time out at Sebring, a little bit part of that. Cope, another driver that just seems to sort of have bad luck fall his way over the course of races. We've seen him very well, and then through a lot of misfortune, not of his own doing, just getting shoved down the order and having to fight his way back.
Does indeed, and just looking at the timesheets now, not looking like an improving lap for him on track. A relatively cool track temperature here today. Currently just coming up to 8:30 in the morning local time. 22 degrees Celsius track temperature, 21 ambient. However, with a northeasterly wind of 16 kilometers an hour, that might play a little part in just unsettling some of the cars out on track. However, just no one really improving much. Strom on a bit of an improvement. Let's see how he gets on. He's gone green in sectors 1, 2, and 3. And there we go, an improvement for him, a 1:21.9 to extend that gap over his teammate Godestad in second place. And that's looking good for Pole. He's not going to get a chance to go again, and he's headed to the pits. So himself and Godestad definitely won't be improving. What can Cope do? Just watch, we've got Mokes at the moment. The Brit currently in 6th position. Another driver not improving, and definitely seems like the track's getting a bit slower out there as qualifying's gone on.
Yeah, it certainly does. And this is a track that'll eat up your tires a little bit. Obviously, these Porsches in the short system of the race, not really having to worry about tire wear as much, but Mokes unable to improve, and that's going to end qualifying.
There we go. We'll be able to bring you up your grid very short. Well, there you go. Instantaneous. Strom on pole with his teammate Godestad of RPC Esports sharing the front row. Thomas Cope and Lacine share the second row. Great qualifying from those two. Christensen a bit down from where we expect on the third row. He's got Scott Mokes for company. Then it's an all-British row on the fourth row with Wadsworth and Parker. Matthias Burke and Yamantas are on the fifth row. Forster, watch him for coming through the field. He's had some good results so far this season. He's got Tom Minot for company. Martin Jensen, he's with fellow Martin Spalek in the all-Martin row 7. Daniel Merchant has Dan Palmer Lee for company, and Mark Silcock will round out your 17-car grid here at Barber Motorsport Park in round 5 of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Championship. Just waiting for the last few drivers to take to the grid right now before we head out on. It's going to be 25 minutes of fun and excitement, undoubtedly, for everyone watching along at home. And definitely some nervous times, and interesting to see how the drivers handle this one. We'll see. Porsche 911 Cup car doesn't have any power. Sorry, it doesn't have any traction control. Doesn't have any ABS, so expect some lockups and some slippery, hairy moments on the opening few laps with cold tyres. Definitely brings the fun, and I mean, race 2 DJ, that always throws up some extra special moments.
Yeah, it certainly does. The fast drivers out of position in that race. Definitely going to be interesting around here to see if they're able to get themselves up and on by the rest of this field.
And definitely is just waiting for the last cars to take to the grid before we head out for race 1. And then we will find out who has been victorious. Will it be Strom to claim his second victory of the season? Will it be Godestad or maybe someone else? Let's find out as here come the lights and we get ready to go racing at Barber Motorsport Park. And we are away, and Strom getting a good start there. Cope just following him along and tucking into third. Godestad just holds on to that second for now as they head round turn 1 and round to this swooping right-hander that seems to go on forever. That is turn 2. Looks like everyone's made it away relatively cleanly so far. Silcock electing to start from the pits, but it's all going on in the midfield here. There's Lacine. Christensen on the outside. The Scott Mokes trying to get in and join the fun there. There's this lockup, someone locked up into the background. I think that might be Merchant, the Frenchman there, just running a bit too deep into 5. And they come down through the straight now, and this is where it gets incredibly tight between Christensen and Lacine. These two really scrapping it out. Lacine had great pace early on in qualifying, and you can see himself, Christensen and Mokes all scrapping around over the same inches of tarmac. The car's really bumping across the curves, able to take them quite hard around here. Well, DJ, looks like everyone's got away relatively cleanly here.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised we didn't see any big kerfluffles there coming down into Charlotte's Web or down through the corkscrew area, but now it is all on Christensen to try to gain back up here, use some good lap time to be able to get to the back of Thomas Cope and get that RPC Esports train that we've seen happen so many times in this series back together. And look at the gap he is already starting to pull on Lacine, about 45 hundredths of a second right now.
Lap completed as heading round turn 2 now. Strong leads from Godestad, Cope, Christensen, Lacine, Mokes, Burke, Wadsworth, Yamantas and Parker rounding out your top 10. Right now, it's all about Thomas Cope as he's really starting to apply the pressure onto the back of Godestad. And Cope finding some pace here, really taking it to the RPC Esports driver ahead of him. Strom just pulling away ever so slightly. That gap's extending out to around about 6 tenths of a second right now. And what can Cope do? This is where it gets really interesting. He needs to keep tucked up behind Godestad and just keep squeezing him and pushing and try and find a way past. I'm not sure where he's going to do that there, but it's all happening down. But hold on, that's Lacine. He's dropped a whole heap of time. He must have come off the track somewhere, off camera, because he's gone from being behind Christensen in 5th place to now down to 13th.
Oh, an absolutely dreadful start for Lacine there. That is not what you want to see. And now he's going to have to try to fight his way back up through the field. Here is the replay. Now this is the straight going down into the hairpin, going down into Charlotte's Web. Just lock up, maybe get a little bit sideways here. Oh,
there you go. There you go. Wow, that was an incredibly close rejoin there. So let's get the car going once more and go incredibly up close and personal to the trainer cars coming through. But Lacine now has his work cut out. Of course, the top 8 are inverted to form the grid for race 2. So that means at the moment Yamantas at this early stage would be taking pole for race 2, but that's it's definitely all undecided. Now Lacine, from being out and well away from his fellow AM drivers, is now stuck right in the midfield. He's got Jensen just ahead of him, then Sparlek that he needs to clear before he even thinks about getting inside the top 3 of AM right now, and it's just all fall apart from him so early on here, DJ.
Yeah, it really is. Everybody just falling down through the order here. It shows you the difficulty of this circuit and what can really happen when you're in race conditions and you've got that pressure breathing down your neck. Just one little mistake around this rolling road course can really throw you off and throw your whole day out of sync.
Down to turn 13 now. Lacine trying to find a way past, not quite able to do it, but Martin Jensen just ran it in a little bit too deep. This is going to allow Lacine back alongside. He's looking for the cutback as they come out onto the start-finish straight. This is going to be his best opportunity. Down into turn 1, onto the brakes. Lacine on the inside, and he gets the move done finally. Ahead of Jensen, and now he begins the hunt of Sparlek, the German, who is around about a second up the road from him right now. A good move down into turn 1 there, DJ.
A very, very good decisive move. That's one of the few areas that you can get a good overtake done if you are brave enough. So Lacine certainly trying to put the pressure here forward. He knows he's got the speed over a single lap. He's just got to be consistent here and minimize any mistakes that, like we saw, that pushed him down the order.
Incredibly tightly packed field here at race 1 at Barber Motorsport Park. 10 seconds, well, just 11 seconds covering our top 14. Definitely challenge for the drivers. As you see Tom Minot there in 9th place currently. He's another one locked in this midfield battle and desperately trying to find his way past Yamantas. He's going to be desperate to do that one because he knows full well himself that gets himself up into pole for race 2, and also he needs to try and hunt down Wadsworth, who's currently leading in AM right now, 7th overall, and some 1.5 seconds up the road from him. However, he's got Parker just behind him, the Englishman, having a bit of a look into turn 1, just moving his car around in the braking zone, doing his best, trying to distract his fellow countryman, but Tom Minot holds on as they come round turn 2. This long downhill swooping corner. It's almost, it reminds me of that corner a little bit of turn 5 I was going to call it by its old name there, the A1 ring, the Red Bull ring, where it's all, it's tricky, a bit off camber and so easy to lock a brake down into there.
Indeed, and that's really one of the things that makes Barber a special place, is that because it is a relatively newer road course, it kind of lifts and copies from a lot of different circuits around the world. A little bit of an imitation there from that turn 5 section. The corkscrew, which you just saw Godderstedt go through, obviously a little bit of a copy of the corkscrew from Laguna Seca. The plunging carousel here that we see the drivers going through right now, a little bit of a mimic of what we saw at the carousel at Mid-Ohio. It really and truly lifts and takes some of the best pieces of racetrack from around the world and puts them onto this purpose-built track and makes for what I think is just a fantastic track to drive.
It's definitely one for the drivers. It's a little bit like Hungaroring in that respect, but absolutely brilliant fun to lap around as we see the scene trying to find a way past Sparlik right now. Not able to get the move done down into turn 1, but he's harassing, he's harrying, he's all over his rear bumper right now. Sparlik just resisting the clutches of Lacine, and wow, literally you could barely throw a blanket over these two. Lacine looking for the outside line. Not sure whether he's going to get it done quite there into 5. Now he's going to look for the cut back, and he just about gets his car alongside. And now he's going to have the inside line as they're going to come onto the brakes. Lacine just moving around in the braking zone and gets the move done. Wow, that was a big brave move there.
Yeah, it was. The cross back on the straightaway, diving down into the plunging corkscrew, just knowing he was going to be later on the brakes than Sparlik in front of him. Absolutely incredible stuff from Lacine.
Now he just needs to break away from Sparlik. He's got a big gap to try and recover. Parker in 10th place is 2 seconds up the road. However, we know from Lacine in qualifying, his 1 lap pace is incredibly good. He just needs to keep that momentum going. They had in qualifying that saw him qualify so high up. And he's down 7 places from where he started, of course, on the 2nd row. Still with every bit of a chance, as we're currently 8 minutes out of the 25 here through race 1. Strong still leading the way. Gap still neutralised around about 7 tenths to his teammate Godderstedt in 2nd place. So we just see Parker all over the back of Minot. These two have been inseparable for the last couple of laps, and well, as James Parker could see, what the sort of move that Lacine has just pulled off, I'm sure he'll be looking to copy that on Minot.
Yeah, he certainly will, but he's got to get a better run there out of Charlotte's Web to really be able to carry that momentum down here into the corkscrew. Very difficult to get a pass done into that area. Is you can go side by side once you're through the middle section of the corner, really 8 and 9, but turn 7 just narrows up on you, and so you have to be very late on the brakes and very close behind to really get a move done into that corner.
Do indeed, and Parker right now struggling to find a way past. Why not? He's making this Porsche 911 Cup car incredibly wide. So why not? To finish on the podium so far this season, but a little bit of luck that hasn't well, come his way. Sorry, no, he hasn't. Apologies about that. Of course, he ran the last time out in Am at Sebring. Parker himself, he's also been on the podium as well. You know, picked up a 2nd place. His only time on the podium so far in the championship. That was in race 2 at Mid-Ohio, as we ride on board with Parker right now. Looking out through the windscreen at that car. The number 225, it's on Minot. Just a little bit twitchy on the brakes there into 5. And what sort of run can Parker get? It looks like he's going to be a bit too far back to be able to capitalise from that one, as they're going to come hard onto the brakes now. Down through the corkscrew. Who's going to get the best exit off here? Looking relatively even. You can see Yamantas just ahead as well. These two really need to work together a little bit, as Parker taking a lot more of the curbing, and that's caused him to run wide there, and really not helping his chances to catch up with Minot.
No, he's not. He's got to be a little bit later on the throttle there. A lot of these corners very, very wide and flowing. They seem to never, ever end. And one of the things that you've got to do is just have that patience. It's very easy to understeer off wide around here. And so you've got to be careful not to do it. There's not a lot of runoff. The grass is right there. Looks like we've got a pretty good run, though, for him. A little bit of a defensive move there from Minot, trying to cover off the inside going into turn one. But now that's going to be Parker trying to fight back, and Lacine coming up behind, starting to get interested.
Yes, indeed, as we see them swoop past here. And Parker close as he's ever been. That gap down to a 10th between the pair of them as they're going to come hard onto the brakes. Parker looking for a move around the outside. He's not going to get it done, but look who's come up right behind them. It's Lacine coming along to join the fight, the Belgium. He's currently in third. In-am right now. He can see Minot second in-am. Just with Parker between himself and Lacine right now. What can Lacine do? Parker not getting the best of exits once more. Just gets right up onto the back of Minot and then just can't quite get the move done and then falls away by around about 3 or 4 attempts and then has to do all the hard work closing up again. But it's definitely a real struggle here right now for Parker.
Yeah, it certainly is. It just looks like he doesn't have that corkscrew down. And part of the tricky nature of that is you really plunge downhill through that section into the right-hander of turn 9, and you've got to check yourself up more than you think coming through the actual corkscrew itself, because you don't want to carry too much speed into 9 or you'll understeer off coming onto that straightaway before the S's, and that is part of the problem. It doesn't matter how much throttle you put in at that point. If you're carrying too much speed, you're still going to develop that understeer, and it looks like he's trying to diamond off the corner here a little bit coming through the carousel of 1, 2, 3, but that looked like that behind him, Lacine just had a better line.
Definitely does indeed, and Lacine now applying the pressure onto Parker. He's always been on the attack, tried to find a way past Minot, and now he needs to think a little bit about what advances he makes, because we know about Lacine, he'll be there to strike, he'll be there to pounce, and with overtakes so far in this race, Lacine definitely the man on the form as they bounce across the curbs there. Well, Lacine, what can he do? The gap currently 4/10 of a second, and right now Minot is just inching bit by bit away from Parker. So we look on board right now with Lacine come down onto the brakes. You can see Parker taking a much more shallower line, it seems there, DJ, compared to Minot just ahead of them.
Yeah, it is, and look, he's running very, very wide there, coming up and through that final turn section, and it's just throwing him off the line a little bit, it looks like. He's able to gather it up back under, not a lot of understeer there coming off of turn 16. Let's watch again and see what he does coming through the carousel here. Now this, remember, he ran a little bit of a different line as well to Parker, or to Minot up in front of him. Yeah, a little bit wider there and a little bit off the apex. I think Lacine is noticing all of this. I'm really feeling like Parker here feeling the pressure from Lacine coming up behind.
Definitely Lacine just showing his card to the inside there, trying to distract Parker as best as he can. They almost touch on the exit there. Lacine getting a much tighter and better run, going for the later apex from that wider line and that wider entry point that he took to come down through the corkscrew right now through turn 8. This is where it can potentially get interesting. I think surely for Lacine, he's got to be looking move down into turn 1, just based on where they currently are on the track, just coming around through 12 right now.
Yeah, I think that's going to be his best opportunity, either there or he could have a little bit of a move going off of the corkscrew. It could be very, very tricky, but that is where we have seen Parker be the most vulnerable to overtake, let us call it. It's a pretty good run here. Does Lacine coming out of that final corner, but it looks like Parker now is the one that's going to be pressuring Minot, able to get a better final sector on that lap.
Definitely, indeed, and just looking at the lap times between these two, incredibly similar, only 0.05 of a second separate them. Minot That's how last time around, going 2 tenths slower, and it's brought him right into the clutches of these two. Now, Lacine just sitting back a little bit as Parker moves to the outside. Minot just has to cover it off, but will Lacine just look to follow Minot through and pick Parker's pocket right now? Not able to quite get the run off as they come all the way down now into 7. Lacine, he's going to have a bit of a lunge as Parker just has to run wide, gets away with it due to the part of the circuit they're currently in. And as they come out of 8, well, I'm not quite sure how they've quite remained as they were. They were actually all over each other like a rash there.
They certainly were, and you saw Lacine trying to replicate that move he pulled earlier on Spalik, but Parker a little bit wise to it, just able to block that car off at the apex, not running too much there. A very, very tight entry there coming into turn 14, but it now looks like the tables are switching around a little bit. These cars just getting closer and closer and closer together.
They are indeed only 4/10 of a second covers, all 3 of them as we ride on board with Lacine right now. He's going to have the best view of the action. Parker just covers it off a little bit there. Lacine a little bit twitchy under braking. Wow, he's so incredibly close. I'm not sure how these 3 haven't come into contact. Just even, you know, a bit of the concertina effect coming through corners. As they come down to 5 right now, onto the brakes. Parker has another go around the outside and able to get that move to work so far, looking for the cutback. Lacine, he says, well, this surely can it be it. Parker getting a great run off the corner. I'm not sure how Minot is quite holding them all off right now as Parker makes another bit of a look up the inside, but not able to get the move done once more into 7. Now comes the run out of this section where this track starts to open up a little bit before you've got the left right of 9 and 10 and another straight, and Lacine moving around early on and Minot doing everything within his power, within his grasp to try and hold on to this 9th place. Well, these are battling. They weren't that far behind Yamantas in 8th place. It was only at one stage around about a second ahead of these guys. The gap is now extended out to 2.6 seconds. It's pretty just a little bit spaced out as they come across this finish line. This time around 13 laps completed. Strom still leads. That gap extending out to around about a second now over Gordonstad. Thomas Cope, he's rounding out your podium positions. Christensen in 4th. Mokes and Burke take you up to 6th place. Wadsworth still leading in 7th overall. Yamantas holding on to that 8th place. Will pick up pole for race 2 if he stays there. Minot, Parker and Lacine. Well, we can see what's happening between these 3 as Lacine tries to make a little bit of a lunge, but Parker saying, no, you're not having any of that sunshine. You're not sneaking up the inside of me, and just covers him off there. And that's just going to give Minot a little bit of breathing space to come down through the carousel right now as we look back through the field. The Sparlek, well, Jensen there, not quite able to get the move done, but he's looking incredibly racing. And they've got Dominic Forster with him, one of the pro drivers tucked up right behind him. We know that Forster has definitely got some raw pace here, DJ, and definitely testament to just how hard it is to pass around here. That you can see that it almost feels like that he's being held up by these 2.
Yeah, you're certainly getting that sense, and you see, I think, a little bit of that eagerness for him to try to get on by, poking his nose a little bit, going down into that final sector, running a little bit wide there on corner exit, but able to gather it up back under him. Yeah, Barber, one of those tracks that overtaking just very, very difficult to get done. I was frankly amazed that Lacine was able to get by Spalik as easily as he was. I would have anticipated that battle that we saw earlier in this first race going on for a couple of more minutes. Jumping back here to that battle with Parker and Lacine. This is the best run Lacine's had for a while. Parker's going to cover off the inside. Lacine tries to look for a crossover. I think there was contact.
There was indeed. Lacine slows right up, knowing that he was in the race. Long there's Parker. Well, he's taking a big excursion round the grass, and he's fallen right through the order, down to 14. And we knew that something dramatic was going to happen. They've been all over each other. You could practically throw a blanket over the 3 of them for around about the last quarter of an hour, and in the end, something had to give as we look down from above. This is how it happened. Lacine, well, Moved to the outside, then lunged in behind late on, and Parker braking early, obviously, to cover off that inside line, and knew he'd have Lacine on the outside of him, so he thought. Then all of a sudden, he's filled full of, he has a mirror absolutely full of the Belgian Lacine, and that was why it was contact and game over for Parker.
Yeah, and I think from Lacine there, what he saw is Parker was covering off that inside, but there was about a car's width of a lane there all the way down into the inside there of the corner, and I think he was looking for that crossover move like we saw him throw earlier on Parker, trying to dive that car down in there, or on Spalek rather, trying to get that car down to the inside very, very quickly, and just underestimated the braking area that he was going to need and just plowed into the back of him.
Didn't see this, he's got just under 3.5 minutes remaining here in race 1. Strom still leading the way, that gap ever increasing over his teammate Goddestad in second place. Now up to 1.5 seconds. I'll make that 1.6 seconds now. Cope, he's still in third place as the Brit. Over 1.6 seconds behind Goddestad. Christensen falling off the back of the podium places. He's made up a place so far, but that wasn't quite good enough as the field starts to pan out a little bit. But he has got Scott Noakes right about half a second behind, so be interesting to see how that closes out during the latter stages of the race. Matthias Berg, he is in 6th place, then in 7th overall it's Wadsworth, and your leader in Gamantas still in an 8th place. He's been there pretty much all race long. Definitely looking to hold on to that one. Will the pro driver. Then we've got Minot in 9th, second in the scene. As we've just seen, he's up into 10th. Maybe in slightly a new, not unprecedented style, but that's third in right now for him, 10th overall. Spalek is 11th, Jensen 12th. Then we've got Forster and Parker in 13th and 14th, the two pro drivers well down. And then Parmalee, Merchant and Silcock rounding out your field. Let's just look down through the field now. This Spalek, Jensen and Forster battle. I mean, Forster just doesn't seem to have an answer to anything, really. I mean, initially it felt like maybe he was just sitting back a little bit, hoping to pick the pocket of either of these drivers for a mistake that they might make and try and capitalise on it, but time is fast running out here, DJ. We're down to 1.5 minutes left on the clock in race 1, and it almost feels a little bit like Forster's almost resided himself to finishing down in 13th.
Yeah, I almost think he has here, Tim, and you saw him take a very, very aggressive approach down into the corkscrew, almost completely getting all 4 tires off into that first little kink of turn 7. Very wide again there. I think he may be pushing as hard as he can, and he just doesn't have the speed here to really get himself on by. Jensen, on the other hand, looking like he was challenging Spalek there for a minute, poking his nose to the inside, trying to see if he could force a little bit of a mistake here out of Spalek, out of the German driver, to see if there's anything he can do.
Definitely, indeed, and just looking at the clock right now. We've got this lap, and then it'll be the white flag lap when the leader comes around strong. Complete start off the final lap of the race as we see Jensen just run it in a bit deep there. Is this Forster's opportunity? Just there again, just almost caught napping, wasn't expecting it and unable to capitalise, the pro driver. But I'm not sure whether it's a case of, like you say, I was saying earlier, where it's thought that, okay, these are two battling AM drivers. Shall I just almost just leave them be and let them battle it out? I've got no way of catching up to Yamantas as the next closest pro driver. He's up in 8th and well up the field, time completely run out on the clock. And I think maybe it's just he's happy to sit there. But Christensen, he's still in 4th place right now. Scott Mokes, another one who can see that time is ticking down. We're on to the white flag lap, the final lap here in race 1. Can Mokes find a way past where nobody else has really managed to so much other than Lacine so far today? He's going to have his massive work cut out, 0.6 of a second, the gap between these two right now.
Yeah, not a whole lot there, and I don't know if Mokes is really going to have an opportunity to be able to get anything by that gap, just holding at about 6.5, 7/10 of a second resolutely as they work their way onto the backstretch down into the corkscrew here through these final couple of corners. Unless Mokes gets a big mistake out of Christensen, I don't think he's going to be able to move up into fourth.
Looking like he's holding on to that fourth place for now, so we just watch Strom. He's not got long left at all, just round turns 14 and 15. He will be taking the victory. He just exits out of 14 now. She's got the left-hander of 15 to go. If he can make it through safely, as he runs not that wide, and with a weave, he comes across the line to take the victory here in race 1. Got to stand second, Cope third overall. Your podium in pro. Christensen comes home in fourth with Mokes fifth. Burke looks good for sixth place. Still waiting to find out what is going to happen in AM right now. There's Wadsworth just coming across the line. There we go. He's going to take seventh and win in AM. Yamantas is going to take the pole for race 2 with that 8th place. Minot and Lassine rounding out your podium in AM with Sparlik and Jensen just coming across the line behind them. Forster, well, incredibly close at the line, only a 10th separating himself and Jensen, but, well, I think it was all done and dusted well before then for the Romanian.
Yeah, really tried to throw it into the best that he could, just a little bit off the pace. He'll be looking to regroup here in the second race for sure. Maybe took that first race just as a little bit of a reconnaissance, see how the track was going to drive under race conditions.
Definitely. We're just heading into slight intermission now between the two races. 5-minute warm-up between the two 25-minute races. Just going to head to a quick commercial break. We'll join on the other side for race 2. You join us back here as we just come through your classified results for race 1. It's Strom taking your victory. Got to start in second, and Cope rounding out your podium overall and in pro for race 1. Christensen and Mokes Burke take you from 4th, 5th and 6th place. Then it was our winner in AM and 7th overall, Peter Wadsworth, the Brit. A great drive from him. Technitive once more. Then we've got Yamantas. He's going to take the pole position in race 2 with 8th overall for the pro driver. And then we've got 4 AMs. And to round out the podium, it's Minot and the scene. 9th and 10th for overall, 2nd and 3rd in AM. Then we've got Sparlik and Jensen. And then, Forster, Parker, Parmalee, Merchant and Silcock rounding out your field here in race 1. See, Silcock a couple of laps down there. He did start from the pits, so not quite the race that he would have hoped for. A couple of minutes left here in race, well, in the warm-up, sorry, and race 2 always brings a bit more action. Drivers start to get their elbows out a bit more, and this is where it could see potentially some more overtakes starting to happen, and we saw it at Mid-Ohio, of course. Race 1 was a bit more of a mundane affair, should we say, you know, a bit more calm, respectful, but with everything on the line in the last race of the evening, it definitely came alive in race 2, and we fully expect to see that happen again here at Barber Motorsport Park. You should just see, got to start there, just heading out on track and then heading straight back in again. Be interesting to know who your favourites are at home. I mean, it's going to be interesting, obviously, with Strom. He's going to be starting back on the 8th, and obviously the field then, you know, shuffled out. Wadsworth is in a cracking place, well away from his fellow AM drivers. Of course, Minot, 2nd in AM, 9th overall, will start from 9th place in race 2, whereas Wadsworth will be starting in 2nd place. on the front row. And a real big chance for him to try and make some places. Potentially even fight for the win overall, of course, with it being so hard to pass here at Barber Motorsport Park. There's all the chance of him taking the victory overall if you can get that move there early on. But of course, don't discredit the likes of Strom and Goddestad and Christensen as well. We've seen great results from them so far this season. RPC Esports have really dominated the pro category. With only Burke, so far, Matthias Burke of Axis Simsport, the only other driver from pro who hasn't been from RPC Esports to take the victory. With the sort of pace that Thomas Coper's got, you can just see him on the screen right now. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do. If he can just follow a few drivers through and pick up some places, could he become the second non-RPC Esports driver to take the victory in the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Championship? Now, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter we are at Apex Racing TV. Facebook is facebook.com/Apex Racing TV. And finally, Instagram, well, you probably guessed it, it's Apex Racing TV. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the little bell notification so you know when we go live for all of our broadcasts here at Apex. Plenty of action across the whole channel every night of the week. Across lots of different series, there's always something to watch and be entertained by at home. And DJ, I mean, what are your thoughts for race 2?
Well, I think it's going to be a race where you really have to be aggressive early on. You've got to try to push yourself forward as much as you can. These drivers, we've seen a lot of times that first race be a little bit of a calm affair, and this second one get a little bit more elbows out. I think you're going to see those elbows out. I think you're going to see a lot more aggression going forwards. It's very difficult to overtake here. It's not impossible, but you have got to be in full commitment mode if you want to get that move done.
Have indeed, and this is clarification for your grid. Yamantis on pole with Wadsworth alongside him for company. The second row is Beck and Mokes, with Christensen and Cope on the third row. Goddestad and Strom making all RPC Esports fourth row of the grid. And then we've got two rows of Minot and Lacine, Sparlek and Jensen on the fifth and sixth row of the grid. Dominic Forster and James Parker well out of position, the two pro drivers in 13th and 14th on the seventh row of the grid, with Parmalee and Merchant, who obviously had that incident early on in race 1, sent him well off the back of the field. And Mark Silcock is going to round out your field here for race 2, and all drivers just taking to the track now. We get ready to go racing in race 2. And we are away, and Yamantas getting a good start there and just covering off Wadsworth early on. But you can see just in the background there, Christensen trying to get up the inside as we see Yamantas. He's got a big, oh, there's good contact in the background there. I think that was the two RPC Esports drivers just took each other out there, DJ, in spectacular fashion.
They certainly did. A big change here, not only in the race, but in the championship. Christian and Goddestad both out of this race, leaving now Strom to carry the banner for that RPC Esports team.
This is really shaking things up as Burke has got away. Thomas Cope, he's up 2 places. Strom the big winner as Cope trying to make a move there. Past Burke down into the carousel, but sorry, into the corkscrew even, but not able to quite get it done. Strom's had a brilliant opening lap, up 6 places, elevating himself into second place. Also, great start to Jensen. James Parker, after getting, well, bumped by Lacine in race 1, is made up 7 places in this opening lap. No, make that 8. He's up to 6th as we see Burke coming under a whole heap of pressure right now from Cope, who knows he needs to get that move done early on. And it looks like these two are actually close right up onto the back of Strom in the same process. 2 tenths of a second covering these two as they come across the start-finish line. Yamantas leads from Strom, Burke, Cope, Minot, Parker, Varlek, Parmalee, Jensen and Wadsworth. Running out your top 10, and Wadsworth is going to be devastated by that one. Starting on the front row, I mean, it'd be great to get a replay of the start to see exactly how it all unfolded. And big losers. We've got Christensen and Goddestad into the pits. They look like that could potentially even be retirements for them, as here comes Cope on the brakes up the inside. But looking for the switchback, but Cope's got his car there, planted on the inside, and that's got him up into third.
Great move there from Thomas Cope. Whoa, a little bit of a fight here for Burke. He's going to try to take it down into the corkscrew. Out breaks Thomas Cope, and he's got that position back. Some great aggression here from Burke.
Clearly that wider line that looked like it hadn't worked for him whatsoever, just allowed him to just carry the extra speed there on the run down to the corkscrew. As we just check it with a replay, this is the start. So we've got Lacine we're just looking down on now. And now look ahead at you. And there you go. Wadsworth got a tap. And I'm not sure who that was from. Oh, it's from Christensen, who was then onto the grass. Out of control. A contact with Goddestad, his teammate. And that is what caused the big shake-up here at Barber Motorsport Park in the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Championship. That's all what that happens. Strom just set the new fastest lap of race to 1:23.6. Those will come down as fuel starts to burn off. But right now, I mean, despite the battling, DJ, these two, Burke and Cope, they're not really falling off the back of Strom and Yamantas ahead of them.
No, they're not. The gap's still holding out at about 0.6 of a second. If anything, Burke is trying to close that gap down a little bit while still playing defense to Thomas Cope. And I think for Cope here, he needs to recognize that Burke has got some pace, maybe not want to be that aggressive. A little bit of a look to the inside there for Kim Anderstrom as they go down into the corkscrew. That is what Burke and Cope want to see. They want to see Yamantas and Strom be fighting right now to try to get them to slow down and bring them back into their clutches.
Definitely. So you just see these four really starting to come close together. Cope moving his car out to one side there, just trying his best to fill the mirrors of Matthias Burke. Just to remind him he's still there. Not that Burke will need reminding us. We see Forster try to make some moves there. That's against Lacine. Lacine just, actually, he's just got past Forster there. Romanian, definitely not one of his favourite tracks here in America. Right now, he's got Mokes right behind him as well. Mokes another one of the big losers on that opening lap, involved in the contact and the action that was all going on. Talk about action, it's all happening back up the front as well. Strom, he's closed that gap up to 3 tenths behind Yamantas. I expect Burke and Cope to now be working together to close right by these two, but here we go, Strom. Oh, he's gone too deep, he's locked up, and Yamantas just instantly reclaims that place. And that's going to bring Burke and Cope right back up onto the Strom. And Strom has just completely undone all of his hard work there, DJ.
Yeah, he did. Just a little bit of a lock up there on the front left tire. It's screaming out in agony as he tried to come into that corner a little bit too hot. Very, very unlucky there for Kim Anderstrom, but now he has got to be looking behind just as much as ahead, as Burke has been able to close that gap down to under 0.4 of a second. Oh my goodness, that was Thomas Cope going off wide there at the exit of the S's.
It looks like he's just about got away with that one. He hasn't lost too much time. Yamantas runs wide, but so does Strom, and there's contact between the pair of them. Strom forces a move, and Yamantas is going to lose 2 places, potentially even 3. His Cope slips through there, and Strom, he's got everyone queued up right behind him, and Yamantas drops from 1st to 4th in the space of 1 corner, as now he looks to try to instantly get that place back from Cope, but he's just a little bit too far back into turn 1. And wow, I got flashbacks there to the opening lap, DJ. The visions of it all going wrong and having one big pile up in turn 14.
Me as well. I thought for sure that was going to end in tears, but thankfully the dual mistakes by Strom and Yamantas, just a little bit of contact there to the side. Yamantas going to be able to hold on to the back here of Thomas Cope with any luck and just keep this as a 4-car train. Burke trying to close down the gap to Kim Anderstrom, but I wonder how much Strom was being held up behind Yamantas and if he's going to be able to push ahead and start to build a little bit of a gap now.
He's already pulled out 0.6 of a second over Burke, despite those two pretty much being bumper to bumper. But Interestingly, what can Yamantas do, and will Minot and Parker, you see him in the background there, those two really need to work together to try if they've got any hope of catching up with this lead train of 4 cars. Minot leading in 5th overall. Parmalee, a great start from him, he's up 8 places into 7th. He'll be absolutely loving that one. As we see Cope right now 3rd overall, and we know he's got definitely the pace. And quite possibly, I wouldn't be surprised for him to really get stuck into the back of Berg in the next couple of laps.
I wouldn't either. I think Thomas Cope is going to try to get a little bit of a move on here, try to see what he can do. The biggest thing is in this race, we've seen a lot more mistakes coming out of these drivers as they have been over-aggressive. I talked about the aggression you need to have to be able to get a pass done around here. You've got to counteract that with the fact that if you get a little bit offline around this Barber Motorsports Park circuit, it can really come back to bite you. Jumping back down in the field here, this is Dominic Forster working on Jensen right ahead of him. Scott Mokes looking on hungrily. Definitely
Forster and Mokes, both pro drivers that'll be definitely scrapping out over that 6th place in pro, 10th overall. However, it's a big, long train of cars. You see, it just starts up with Parmalee, currently 2nd in AM right now. Then we've got Lacine, Jensen, Forster. Sorry, apologies, Parker as well at the... No, sorry, it is Parmalee, sorry, at the front of this train. See, they're all tucked up behind one another. Every sort of gap is around about 3 tenths between all of these cars as Forster. Well, he's just nipping Dobby and he's just run it in a bit too deep, and Scott Mokes says thank you very much, I'll have a bit of that space, and gets up into 10th place and steals that 6th place in pro from Forster as they come across the start-finish line. Next lap's complete, 8 minutes complete race time out of 25, and still all to play for.
Indeed, nothing is decided here yet. We are seeing these fierce trains of cars. Oh, as we've got a side-by-side up in front, that is Lacine trying to get around Parmalee a little bit here, looking to make the move coming out of the roller coaster there, out of the carousel, as now they go down into Charlotte's Web. Lacine looking to be very late on the brakes and down to the inside.
He's going to get the move done, but what can Parmalee do on the outside? The American fighting back hard, and he's going to have the inside line. Lacine just tries to cover him off, but here comes Parmalee on the brakes. Lacine runs it in deep, and he's just going to get away with that one, and he gets himself up into 2nd in 7th overall. But Parmalee trying to fight it back, but he's not going to get the move done there. Nor while this is being played out the front of this train. Scott Mokes is closing right up onto the back of these guys, and Forster actually, he's lost another place. Jensen's got past him as well.
Oh, it's all going wrong here for Forster, but yeah, as you said, Scott Mokes looking very, very hungrily at the back of Parmalee right now. Lacine charting the streak off a little bit, growing that gap to about 0.8 of a second. We ride on board with the nose right now of Scott Mokes. Good line there out of the corner. Could have maybe carried a little bit more speed, but excuse me, this is on board with Parmalee right here. Now we're back with Mokes. He can tell now. Mokes trying to get up ahead. Let's see how he takes through. Wow!
Incredibly close there through turn 2. Head through the carousel, and you can really get a view for the elevation changes here. Yeah, the outside TV cameras don't show it so much, but here comes Moga up the inside, and that looks like he's going to get Parmalee, but is Parmalee going to fight back around the outside? He drifts on the corner exit, and that break in the traction there just allowed Scott Mokes that fraction of a second they need to get ahead and get himself up into 8th overall.
So good play there from Mokes. We see yet again that going down into Charlotte's Web, that hairpin seems to be the prime overtaking opportunity. Now Mokes is going to set his eyes up ahead to the very, very quick Lacine here on the day.
Indeed, and now next question is, what can Martin Jensen do? He knows Parmalee is going to be maybe a little bit vulnerable, a little bit, disjointed after losing a couple of places. Mokes, oh, there's the spinner, that's the scene. He's off. After making great progress on his recovery drive, Corentin Lacine, the Belgian in the 291 Porsche 911 Cup car, has lost it, and he's down to 12th now, and he's lost a whole heap of time, and he's at the back of the train that he was at the front of.
Yeah, there is, and now he is really going to have to put his nose ahead here to try to catch up. Let's watch this replay to see exactly what happens. Runs it a little bit wide here on the curbing, catches a little bit of the grass.
Well, that's what sends him around. I mean, he did well, to be fair there, DJ, to keep it out of the wall.
Yeah, exactly. That was a very, very good catch for Quarantine Lacine. And he's going to try to catch up to the back of this field here. Still plenty of time to go in this race. About 13 minutes left to go. So he's not going to be done and dusted quite yet.
Definitely not. And just coming up to half race distance. Strong leads from Berg. Cope in third place. Yamantas fourth. They've got Minor fifth overall. Leader Nam. Followed by Parker and Mokes. Palmer Lee, you can see him right now in that 271 car. The American 8th overall, second in Am. However, third place in Am is just behind him, Jensen. Then we've got Forster rounding out your top 10 with Silcock, Lacine, Christensen, Merchant, Godestad. Godestad being a lap down, so is Sparlek, and Wadsworth retiring the car. Obviously, after that turn one incident, we see. I'll tell you what, Burke, he's done a good job of holding on to this second place. I mean, Cope's looking incredibly racy. It's just a bit of a curse. The commentator there, as you see him running in a little bit too deep into turn two, and he's done a really, really good job. However, Strom has really pulled away from these two. 1.6 seconds, he is clear of them.
Yeah, and that's a little bit what we suspected might happen here, but Thomas Cope, as you said, doing a fantastic job to just keep the heat on to Burke. There's, ooh, we've got a side-by-side in the back. That's Jensen trying to get his way through on Forster, and I believe he's got it.
Yes, and what can Stillcock do? You see him looming in the background there. Not quite close enough there into the hairpin of turn 5 to try and pick up any pieces or any scraps. They come down through the corkscrew right now, heading out. What can these two do? Not obviously, as we mentioned, not really a chance to overtake through this part of the circuit. Let's head down to the straight on the run down to turn 11 now. Forster just doesn't seem to once again to have any answers. It's been a similar story to what happened in race 1 and just looking to pick up scraps. I mean, having said that, he has still made up 3 places from his starting position, but that's been largely down to incidents that have happened further up ahead of him.
Yeah, indeed he has, but at this point, I think he just needs to hold on here a little bit. He's got 7/10 up ahead or behind him to Silcock. He just needs to keep up behind Jensen as much as possible. Try not to lose any focus here. He's only got about 10 minutes left to go in this race. There's another little battle starting to shape up. This is Minot and Parker. This is the battle for P5.
It is indeed. Am, our leader in Am. He's got the 5th place in Pro just behind him. What can Minot do to hold off the resistance of Parker, who's filling his mirrors right now? An attempt to try and find his way through. So we come down through turn 7 and 8. Out onto one of these sort of back straight sections on the run down to 9, this first one for the left right of 9 and 10. And now on past the Spider on the run down to 11, and Parker just to find a little bit, and you can see once again, we saw this in the previous race, the difference in lines between these two. Parker, I mean, he's had a cracking start up 8 places. Our biggest riser, you know, I mean, compared to anyone else, the closest to him is Parmalee and Strom, who are both at 7 places each respectively right now. To come across the start-finish line, head out onto lap 11. Parker, he's still got plenty of time here, DJ. You know, just over 9 minutes left in race 2, but I mean, needs to find a way to just get that a little bit closer, which has eluded quite a few of the drivers, you know, where they could have just been the extra, you know, half attempt to attempt closer to the car behind and could have potentially forced the move. As you see a bit more of a defensive line there once again from Minot.
Yeah, and I think for James Parker, he's going to be smiling a little bit seeing that. If Minot is running the defensive line, even though Parker is not completely up and behind the exhaust pipe of that number 225 Porsche, that just means that he's in his head a little bit, and he may be a little bit more prone to make a mistake. So that's not exactly a bad thing here for James Parker to have happening to him. For Minot, I wouldn't be running that defensive. Don't compromise your lines here. Let Parker do the hard work to get around you. If you run the standard racing line, there will be plenty of places that you will naturally be able to defend any attack behind you.
These two, right about 4/10 of a second, separating them. Just give you an idea on lap times as well. I mean, near identical as you would imagine any attempt separating them last time around. They come across the start-finish line. Let's take a little look at how they are. Oh, something's happened to Minot. I'm just looked across and I'm seeing in our timing software, he's fallen right down through the order, and I think he's even in the pits. Or is it maybe just a disconnect? He just appears back up. I thought something had happened to our leader in AM. As we see Parker trying to make advances right now, and can he get the move done over Minot? Not this time, but I tell you what, Scott Mokes is closing right onto the back of these two. Mokes, of course, he's down 3 places from where he started in 4th, and look, he's trying to make some progress, and definitely trying to see if he can make some progress where Parker is unable to do so far against Minot. But these two as close as they've ever been really here, DJ. You see Parker just getting onto the grass there, running a bit wide. He'll get away with it there. Geez, so that part of the circuit, but Mokes is right on his tail right now, DJ.
Yeah, he is, and these two, I was going to say, need to stop squabbling a little bit, because Mokes certainly has the speed to be able to get himself around. His last lap was actually his personal best. He was about 0.7 of a second faster than Parker up ahead of him, so he needs to be getting on as quickly as possible, does Parker. But meanwhile, for Mokes, he knows he's got the overspeed here. I've got to think he's going to run a pretty aggressive line here through the carousel, plunging down the corner. Another blink out there for Minot. His internet giving him some problems as he is going to try to see Scott Mokes here if he's got anything. He's already going to look to the inside, trying to see if he can force Parker offline. Parker does take a little bit more of a defensive line, and is that going to compromise him on corner exit?
Just see, his battle's all happening down into 5 as Forster still desperately trying to find weight past Jensen ahead of him off 3rd and last of the podium places in AM right now. The Jensen's holding on, of course, Forster from Pro in that 1-2-3 machine of Vulcan Sim Racing. And he's got a real feel for the Romanian. We know he's got pace, and I think we're definitely glad and happy to get this round out of the way, done and dusted. As we just see them head through turns 9 and 10 there. Forster trying to find a way past, prodding and poking once more. As we've got Parmalee, I mean, a cracking result from him. I know he's going to be really happy with that 8th overall, 2nd in class, as they all ran wide a little bit here. Coming out of the final corner, it's Minot, Mokes and Parker, and Minot, can he get a 2-for-1 deal? He's going to try and squeeze it and hang it right around the outside here into turn 2. Can he hold on? Minot trying to defend desperately here and just runs the car out wide and allows to reclaim that place, but Mokes, he's right on the tail as they run down to 5. Mokes heads to the outside looking for the switchback on Minot, who's desperately trying to cling hold of this 5th place right now. And he may well just have done enough. He's moved right across to the right-hand side of the track, but Mokes has found a bit of a gap, but no, just has to back out of it there. But I'll tell you what, Mokes dispatched of Parker relatively easily there.
Yeah, he really did. Parker made a mistake. Mokes able to immediately capitalize on it and try to go for Minot again. We'll now have to see. Remember, Minot was running a little bit defensively to Parker behind. Now with Mokes, who's a little bit more aggressive. Whoa, taking a look down into that final sequence of 12, 13, and 14. Minot is under a lot of pressure. Scott Mokes does not want to stick around.
Doesn't he? Wants to clear Minot as quickly as possible. Just coming up to 4 minutes hit remaining here in race 2 at Barber Motorsport Park in Birmingham, Alabama, and you've got Strom leading from Burt Cope, Yumantas, Minot still in 5th overall and holding on to that lead in AM. 2 pro drivers of Mokes and Parker, 6th and 7th just behind him. Parmalee 2nd in AM. Forster's got past Jensen up into 9th. Jensen down to 10th, but still holding us at last place on the podium in AMS, but still Lacine aren't too far behind as we see Mokes trying to make progress against Minot. He's going to take that inside line. Parker wants a bit of the action. He's going to follow Mokes around that outside line, but Minot just slows it up on the apex to cover off any advances from Mokes, and they're practically bump drafting as they head down to the corkscrew. And then almost drifting it sideways there from Minot through the corner and held on in spectacular fashion and held on to 5th place as we see Berg and Cope going for a battle for 2nd place overall and in pro. And Cope's going to have the inside line. This is into the final turns 14 and 15, but Berg's going to have the inside line into 15 and just covers off Cope once more. And Cope, well, that was a big brave move, but not quite able to pull it off, and just lacking a bit of momentum off the final corner there to have another go into turn 1.
Can you tell we're coming down on the final 2.5 minutes of this race? Everybody absolutely pushing hammer and tongs to try to go forward. That is going to be Cope trying to get a better run off of the carousel down there, trying to see if he can get it, but it looks like he lost a little bit of time. He's going to take that wider line through Charlotte's Web, see if that's going to help him out. I'm not sure if it is or not.
Let's find out. Not too long to go before turn 7, and the run down. Bert covers off that inside. Not going to find a way past. There is Cope, but he's incredibly close. He's almost sat in the passenger seat. He is that close to Berg right now. Scrambling all over the rear end of that Porsche 911 ahead of him, and Cope just out onto the grass. That's just how hard he's pushing it right now, and trying to stick his nose in at every given opportunity. Berg just holding off, and here comes Cope. He's going to get it up the inside. This is a repeat of what happened on the last lap. Can Berg hold on round the outside? Cope just pushing and squeezing Berg out. They almost come into contact through 15. The white flag flies. 1 lap here to go in Birmingham, Alabama, and Cope has got it up into 2nd place, but here comes Berg having a lunge down into turn 1. Can he get the place back? Cope just holds on by the skin of his teeth there, DJ.
Oh my goodness gracious, some brave stuff there from Thomas Cope, but this is not done yet. He has still got to try to defend as Burke looks like he's got a pretty good run coming off of the carousel. They're going to dive down now into the final corner here, going down into Charlotte's Web for the last time. Oh, good defense there by Thomas Cope to be able to back up that 164 right on the apex and prevent any attack from Burke.
Last lap, the last chances here, and Berg knows he has another look up into 5 there. Sorry, into 6, and 7. But he knows that time is running out, roughly about half a lap to go for these two. Can Cope hold on? Can Bert find a way past? Can he do to him, to Cope, what Cope has done to him twice on the last 2 corners of the last 2 laps? As we see Strom, he's just currently in those corners right now, just coming on the exit of 14. He's only got 15 to go, and he is going to claim the victory if he can just hold on to it while he's through clear. And that makes it 2 wins from 2 for Strom. And return to winning ways after winning race 1 of round 1. And you see Cope, he's just going to hold off Berg at the line there to keep hold of that 2nd place. A great drive from him after 2 third places in a row. So he moves up a place into 2nd, and we see coming across the line, Minot's just going to hold off from Mokes there. Palmer Lee, a great result from him. He's going to be ecstatic with that, with the American in 7th overall. 2nd in class, Jensen holds on to that. 10th overall and 3rd in AM. Wow, DJ. Chalk and cheese once again between races 1 and 2.
Indeed, you see those elbows out. It's almost like the first race is a reconnaissance race around here. And then once these drivers figure out how the car is going to perform under racing temperatures, you actually realize it and they just go for it. Fantastic racing here in this 2nd race.
This championship just not failed to deliver on action, and once again given an absolute delight here in race 2 with epic battles the whole race long. This reverse grid feature definitely helps to play a part of it, but even so, Driver's finding space, and well, you see from Cope just how hard he's been pushing. That left side of the car looking a little bit worse for wear. Plenty of scrapes, plenty of bruises. Take a bit of duct tape to patch that one up, but he's not going to care with that second place on the podium, as I said, after 2 third places in the last 2 rounds. Let's take you through your classified results here from race 2 at Barber Motorsport Park in round 5 of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship. Ken Andersson taking the victory, Thomas Cope in second, with Matthias Berg rounding out your podium here. Yamantas, after a great start, obviously lost those places, but held on to 4th, well clear of AM leader and winner Tom Minot in 5th place for Track Limit Racing. Scott Moakes couldn't quite find his way past Minot, but remains 6th overall and 5th in class. Dan Parmalee, he's going to be excited about that one, as I said earlier. The American, 7th overall, 2nd in AM. A great result for him. Dominic Forster, he's recovered well in the end, up to 8th for Vulcan Sim Racing. Be happy with that one after a troublesome race 1. James Parker, 9th overall, and Jensen rounding out your top 10 and picking up the last place on the podium in AM. Mark Silcock and Lacine, 2 AM drivers, 11th and 12th overall. Roger Christensen obviously caught up in that lap 1 action. Daniel Merchant in 14th, and Christensen's teammate Godestad, who obviously they're coming together corner 2 on the first lap, comes home in 15th. Then we've got Sparlick a lap down, and Wadsworth, who retired on the opening lap. Wow, what a race! And I tell you what, let's we'll have a bit of a chat to, I think, probably someone who said he's going to be absolutely ecstatic with that result. 2nd place on the podium in race 2 is Dan Parmalee. Welcome along. Wow, I saw within the chat that you put that you were just going to, you know, mosey around at the back and try and keep out of everyone's way. I mean, I'm sure you were at least suspecting to find yourself up 8 places on that, pretty much on that opening lap, and 7th overall and 2nd in class.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of other drivers had some misfortune in that race. I did not think I had the pace to be able to even hang on. Once I realized I was inside the top 10, I didn't realize I was capable of maintaining enough pace to be able to hold that off. I think I did get caught by a couple of the faster cars, but for the most part, I was able to hold off a lot of the AM class cars and just kind of cruised away to finish overall 7th and 2nd in class that race. That was a lot of fun.
It was indeed, and like you said, even though you'd come up through all those places, some may say through a bit of luck, but then equally, you've got to be there to take those chances when they present themselves to you. And then, you start to show really, really good, strong pace, and defended that position incredibly well. And obviously, I'm sure you could see Scott Moakes coming up to you fast from behind, and obviously, in your mind, were you just looking to just let him pass, obviously, with him being a pro driver and yourself being an AM driver and obviously not being a position in class?
And you certainly don't want to give up a position no matter who the driver is coming up behind you. I mean, it could be whoever won the Porsche Esports Super Cup last season. You want to learn something, so you'll at least put up a little bit of a fight and see what they do. And he was able to, I think, outbrake me going into a corner, and then he just had a better position in the next corner, and I didn't want to mess both of us up, so I did my best to hang on. But then I figured, well, I'm behind him, I might as well see what he's doing and see if I can apply that to what I'm doing, and see if I can find another 10th or 2 out there.
Well, definitely. And we had next time out, we returned to Europe for the championship to Spa, an incredibly different circuit that presents different challenges compared to Barber Motorsport Park. How are you looking forward to that one?
I love that track. It's it's so fast, it's so open, it's just so big, and it feels like you really got to be on it there. I mean, it's these cars you wouldn't probably consider a momentum car, but there, I mean, if you're taking your foot off the gas when you shouldn't be, you're just going to lose a ton of time. So I really like the precision of that track. Run there a good number of times, not in this car, but I did in the old car, and we'll do some prep over the next week and see what I can bring out there. Maybe get another overall top 10 and a high place in class.
Well, definitely. I think it's definitely plenty of chance for that one. And before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to at all?
Oh, yeah, we'll give a shout out to the family and the wife for letting me come out here and do this kind of thing. And we'll give a shout out to the team. We Papineau Performance Motorsports. We're normally a NASCAR group. I'm the lone road racer, but I still run with them on the oval track. So we'll get back with them on Monday nights and go run the Xfinity car and be back here next Wednesday.
Definitely good to see. And congratulations, your first time on the podium and a great result. Sure you'll say for yourself that's Damien Poboli finished second in race 2 in
I'll catch you later.
And I'll tell you what, next up, let's have a chat. Well, a bit of the raw wheat as always. It's for yourself, DJ. It's Thomas Cope.
Thomas, first and foremost, some amazing battling there in those last couple of laps. Talk me through your fight with Burke there.
Just amazing hats off to Burke. That was some really good, clean racing. I did feel like I squeezed him a little bit, so I would say sorry on the second to the penultimate corner. But yeah, it was hard. I was just picking and choosing my line. I knew down through the kink, coming up the hill, I had the better run through there. So I forced myself to the inside and just forced the issue. And obviously 2 laps to go, I had to push the matter where I could. So yeah.
Well, how long were you kind of sizing him up and gaining on that? I mean, obviously, you were within about a second of him the entire race. Did you think about trying to go for that move a little bit earlier, or was it always just kind of the plan to wait and see where you could get it and have to push at the end of the race?
The plan was to try and get it a bit earlier. Obviously, I started making a couple of mistakes as well. I found a few kinks with a bit of damage I had on the front left. I was struggling through the kink as it was. So I did try to make the move earlier, but I couldn't force the issue. And at that point, I saw Strom absolute walk away from us. So I knew I didn't need to push the matter too early. I just waited a little longer, got a little bit more information on his line and stuff like that. And yeah, that really helped get the run up the hill, knowing I was a little bit faster through there.
Well, we were talking a little bit on the broadcast about how this is a track that doesn't necessarily get a lot of love here on iRacing. It's one of my favorites to just hot lap. How do you feel about it? How do you like this circuit? It's not normally one that we see, especially in a European style series, come out.
It's kind of a weird one. My spotter, Charles, he's always been with us. He's a really amazing guy. He actually lives about 20 minutes from the circuit. So he's really been helping us, walking us through the track lines, the cambers of the corners, how to attack, just really the approach of the track and how to do it. He's not the greatest of drivers, but he's got a great, amazing race sense. And he is a good driver when he puts his mind to it. But he's really helped us. And we've done 2 or 3 league races at this track within other leagues as well. And just then the track knowledge from those and practice from those has really just helped running the line more consistently and better.
Well, it's always good to have that sort of ace in the hole for you there, Thomas. Anybody you'd like to thank for this second place here in this this second race on the day?
Yeah, all the friends, all the family, they're always supporting me. All the team that are behind, everyone thanking for the race, as they do at the end of the race. Everyone on our own stream on This Is Olympus on Twitch. Everyone on there really helps us out and gives us some good motivation to keep going what we're doing. And Spotter Charles and the guys helping practice for these events.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. That was your second place finisher there, Thomas Cope. And Tim, I throw it back to you. I think you've got somebody else lined up.
I have indeed. And wow, it was his first win in the season in race 2, last time out at Sebring, and he's done it again in race 2 here at Barber Motorsport Park. We're joined now by Tom Minot. Tom, congratulations. This is getting a little bit of a habit almost, winning in race 2 for the last two rounds.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I put a fair bit of practice into this compared to last week, but I've never raced this track before. I've had to purchase it on, I think it was Sunday, and just run some laps. And I think thank you to Peter Wadsworth, who put up a free practice session at the weekend. So I joined in and realised I was massively off the pace. But I think the second race, obviously, I massively benefited from the carnage into turn one. I'll apologise kind of initially to Lacine. I think we made contact and he didn't do so great out of it in turn one, but the way I see it, he came down on me a little bit. And he didn't really leave enough space, but I know it wasn't intentional. He's not a dirty driver, and that was really evident from the first race when I think him and Jensen were putting so much pressure on me. I guess similar to the comments I made last week, the guys in this league are, for the most part, are incredibly good, incredibly respectful, and just a pleasure to drive around, because I know that they are, for the most part, not looking to lunge and make bad, irrational decisions, and it makes the racing great. I mean, the first race for me was a lot more interesting. The second one, I had so much pressure from, I think it was Parker and Lacine, wasn't it? I think in the first race. But yeah, Parker again, like he was back behind me again in the second race, and never at one point did he just send it just because he thought he could, and he was a pro driver. So yeah, respect to him as well.
I mean, obviously you were right in the thick of it. I mean, during race one, I mean, second in was not exactly a bad result. But however, with Wadsworth, finishing inside the top eight, if he came seventh, so he started on the front row. Obviously, when you were sat on the grid, obviously not knowing, what was going to quite happen, and obviously you were starting in ninth. And how was it what was going through your mind? How were you sort of feeling? Were you thinking, well, I've got, best I can come out of this is second, or did you think there's always a little bit of a chance?
No, I didn't. I wasn't thinking first. I was basically actually thinking, as soon as we get settled down, not really fight Lacine. I know he's a quick guy. I cooked the front left in the first race, battling so hard against Parker and Lacine that I went with a more conservative approach. I think my lap times dropped off to like mid 24s by the end of the first race, and that was just because I pushed too hard. So it was very much try and look after the tyres and be a little bit stronger towards the end, because I got so lucky in the first race I think I got second, and that was good enough for me. But I didn't. Yeah, my plan was to let Lacine past. I think you look at the replay, we made contact. He didn't do so well off it, but I felt like I gave him enough room. I just felt it was squeezed me a little bit tight, but generally I wasn't trying to battle him because he's such a quick guy. He should be really in the pro category. He's got fantastic pace, and the same with Peter. But I'm learning so much from them all, so it's a pleasure to race.
Definitely. And Spartan, next time out, obviously I imagine a track a little bit better than Barber Motorsport Park. Definitely feeling a bit more comfortable heading back to Europe and Belgium.
I think the Spartan track I always do okay, and I think since they updated the off tracks last season or the season before, it's now a little bit easier to race at, or at least a little bit clearer of where the limits are. But I don't know. I will give it a go again. I mean, for me, I kind of 2 races ago, I kind of thought I really need to start scoring points. I didn't have a great first couple of races to the season, and it was really today. It was the goal at the start of today was really to try and get in amongst. I guess it's Jensen and he's the Merchant, really. So I think a good result last week. Fantastic result this week. It kind of elevates me slightly. It's going to start building that gap. I'd really like to try and be in the battle for the top 3 come the end of the season. I'm not looking at Lacine. He's far too good. I think he's probably already won the amateur title already, even halfway through. But yeah, just keep going. I'm learning loads, and I'm just having a blast.
Definitely, good to see. That's Tom Minot, your winner here in race 2, and also picked up 2nd place in race 1. Congratulations to him. And finally, just lined up for you, DJ. It's quickly what time to squeeze him in. It's winner of race 1, Peter Wadsworth.
Indeed, a great race 1, a pretty tough race 2. Peter, talk me through your emotions here. Obviously, the highest of highs, and I got to imagine a pretty low low.
Oh yeah, I mean, race 1. I mean, I'm quite looking forward to looking back on the broadcast, because I'll be amazed that you managed to find some things to speak about for 25 minutes. It's such a hard track to overtake on. I was just kind of, in my own area, just trying to, stay focused and not make any mistakes, because really that's the only way that really you can get by people here, is if you can force them into a mistake, or they lock a wheel or something like that and go wide. But yeah, it's great to get the class win again, and then that sort of convenient. There's no better place really to be than 7th or 8th when you're an AM, because it means you can be up the front for race 2, which did not go quite as well.
Not necessarily, but looking ahead here to next time out, we go to Spa. What do you think? Is that going to be more of a race 1 or is that going to be more of a race 2 for you?
I don't know. It depends, really. I mean, it really sort of, a lot of it will depend on whether or not someone tries to, send it up the inside of me from 5 miles back and just completely take me out of the race or not. But yeah, I think Spa should be really exciting. It's obviously a brilliant circuit. Great in these cars because I still maintain these are the best cars on iRacing, and that's one of the best circuits. One of the things I think we're going to have to be super careful of is like Xing out, because there's so many places where it's easy to pick up off tracks there. But big drag up into Lecum. There's a lot of really good places for overtaking. So yeah, it should be really good. But I'm pretty annoyed about race 2, to be honest. I think he's a pro. He's leading the championship. There's absolutely no reason to try and put a move on someone like that on turn 1 of race 1, and then he goes and takes out his teammate as well. I mean, that's not the kind of behaviour you expect of someone that is at the level that he is obviously at. And that was, with the track being this difficult to overtake on, this was my chance to get an overall podium, maybe. So yeah, really quite cross about that, to be honest. But race 1 was a really good result, so got to take the positives. And my pace is getting better all the time, so it's nice.
Well, there you go. Anybody you'd like to thank for the run here today?
Yeah, the usual people, Tech Native, my main sponsor in inverted commas. Maybe they'll start paying me eventually. And yeah, as always, thanks to the guys that organise the league, and massive congratulations to Tom and Dan for a couple of really great results. Hopefully, next season as well, I won't have the PC issues that I had at the start, and I can mount a proper AM challenge if they'll let me stay in that category. So yeah, thanks everyone, and thanks to you guys as well.
Well, thank you. That was Peter Wadsworth, your victor in the AM category in race 1. Tim?
Well, if that's not been enough action for you, coming up on the channel tomorrow night at 8 p.m. GMT, it's the Apex Racing League Touring Car of Britain Series. We're heading back to Knock Hill for round 6. Well, if you think Porsche Cups has delivered on action, then it's a relatively mundane walk in the park on a Sunday afternoon in comparison to that series. Make sure you tune in for that one. I'll be back in the commentary booth for that. It's well worth checking out. Friday night, it's Radicals from Hockenheim, week 9 for them. The Radical Racing Challenge. That's 9 p.m. GMT. Saturday nights, it's Formula Renault 3.5. There we are at Road America, 9:45 p.m. GMT. Then Sunday night, it's the usual double header. I'll be back in the commentary booth for SRF Weekend Warriors at Interlagos at 7:45 GMT. And then finally, at 9:15 that evening, it's IGP Fun F3, sponsored by VD Wrap. It's round 9 for them as they head to Nürburgring, so definitely a nice way to round out your weekend. Well, what can we say about this round? Race 1, it was quiet, it was a little bit mundane, similar to Mid-Ohio in the sense that race 2, everything came out of the blocks, so much action, so many overtakes. It was definitely an absolute classic, but as we head to Spa next week, it's definitely going to be an interesting one, a completely different challenge. I've been Tim Cox with DJ Clark, we've had Alex Simpson on production. When it's time to say good night, and we'll see you next time at Spa.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, You will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers, including Peter Berryman, John Robertson, Brandon Trano, and IndyCar World Champion Alex Palou. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.